Hello guys and welcome to another day with Zimaleta. In today's video we have some exciting news to tell you guys. We got our DNA results back so quickly, guys. Normally it takes between 6 to 8 weeks. And guys, my story is kind of interesting, my wife's story is kind of interesting because think about it, we're both from Russia. We have so many different, families and relatives and stuff like that. Just me and my wife meeting, it was kind of like an interesting thing because we grew up in the same type of city, and we met as kids, which we actually forgot about, except our parents kind of knew about it. And we moved to America. Well, actually, I moved to America, and basically, like 15 years later, I basically, met my wife through a video, went back to Russia. But, this is not a love story video, but the interesting thing about it, guys, is where this DNA kind of leads and what you could find and stuff like that. And the facts are surprising, to say the least. So let me tell you guys just really quickly, and I'm going to actually take you to the map and show you kind of like exactly what's going on. So it turns out I am 96% Eastern European, only 1% Russian, and I got like so many different mixes in me, guys. Basically, I have Chinese in me, I have Japanese in me, I have some Caucasus, like in me from, these other countries right there, like I guess in the Middle East, like 1%, and some, like from the islands and stuff, kind of like east of Australia, and all over the place. So I'm basically like from 6 regions in the whole country. The map looks like this. I'm like all over the place, guys. But anyways, my wife is, also unique, interesting, definitely not Russian, even though we're from Russia. 100% Eastern European, guys. And so anyways, let's ask my wife actually where specifically her DNA comes from. Откуда твой ДНК?
С Венгрии.
Vengria.
Yeah.
So basically that translates to Hungary in English, but it's interesting, like her region, like specifically just focuses on there, so we really don't even need to show her map, but I will actually throw it in there and show you guys kind of like the actual, I guess, the region, and then it starts exploring everywhere else and kind of goes to tell you that like basically they start moving and stuff. The interesting fact is that from that same region in 1900s, like a lot of families, due to like some of them, like they had like famine and they were looking for like jobs and stuff, so they started moving to the United States in 1900s through like 1925, and most of them, they were like like factory workers, and they were like basically like a lot of non-skilled labor, and they would like work like I guess as miners and stuff like that. But a lot of them, they chose to settle in places like Chicago, Pennsylvania, New York, and like some other like northern type of states, which was kind of interesting. They started moving kind of soon, but I suppose then other type of relatives and stuff, they started moving, I guess, all over the map and stuff like that, like started moving more like east. I guess Russia was, I don't even know like when Russia was formed, but I mean Russia, think about it, like everybody just came from everywhere, kind of like United States, and before you know, like Russia was kind of like formed. So everybody's like confused, I guess, like where they from, like in Russia and stuff. I've seen people here like in America, and I'll look at them and they look like Chinese, and I'm like, where are you from? Russia. I'm like, okay. And then you like ask some people, they look like they're from Middle East. So like, where are you from? Russia. So, there's different, like, and I'm thinking Russia, they don't look nothing like Russian. Russians typically look like from the movie Rocky, if you guys remember. I know a lot of times they try to make fun of Russians like in movies and stuff by trying to show you a place where a bunch of snow, it's usually Siberia, and you got some crazy Russians swimming somewhere in frozen lakes, which is kind of true. It's a little bit like stereotypical, but I mean, if you look at Siberia, they do have like Russian polar bears, and they just go swimming like in the ice type of stuff there. They love the cold, I guess. Believe me, guys, I don't really like the cold. So I live in South Carolina, so I lived in New York. I was okay, it's kind of cold, so I try to survive when I'm like expediting and stuff like that in those countries. But guys, it's quite interesting where the DNA stuff comes from, and a lot of people, they get the misconceptions thinking it's like DNA. It just tells you kind of like like where your family members came from. No, it tells you like by the DNA where you're actually from, like where's your bloodline from. And obviously we have Eastern European bloodline. And of course in the United States, everybody came here from Europe, pretty much. I mean, you'll think like I'm talking about Europe. It could be Spain, it could be Portugal, Italy, and shoot, French. A lot of people came there, and of course, we have a lot of like English speaking, like Britain. But then again, if you think about it, look, Great Britain got their hands in many pies. I mean, look, they're in Africa, creating colonies. They're in Australia. They were like in China. And I mean, that kind of explains the intermixture kind of like with the DNA, because anytime there's kind of like, like wars that happen, a lot of times soldiers, they end up, taking in wives that they, I guess, maybe initially did not plan, but part of the war effort, they'll find somebody else in another country. And before you know, like you got DNA like all over the place. But the general understanding, at least for us, is quite interesting. At least we know kind of like where we come from, because like shoot, like even in Russia, like there's like Ukrainian stuff, and a lot of people are like, no, you're Ukrainian because you're born Ukrainian. Just because you're born there does not really make you from there. I guess you can associate, because that's going to be like your homeland and stuff like that, but that's not like your true like bloodline, where they're from and stuff like that. My kids, they're born here. They even have American names, Kevin and Jason, but are they like true like Americans and stuff? I mean, they could be president, if they choose to, like eventually, because they're born here, and they're really not Russian, I guess. And now we truly know that we're both Eastern Europeans. I'm pretty sure there's Russian bloodline and stuff, but mine specifically is Lithuania and Poland. It is like in Czech Republic. That's my main, like heritage right there. So that is quite interesting to me, that I see where it all started and it kind of like spread. And you guys will see that in the maps that I'm actually getting ready to show you. Sorry for the long introduction, but I think this DNA stuff is pretty interesting, and it's worth the wait, just to see kind of like what to expect and stuff, because I'm pretty sure you guys are watching this because maybe you want to find out your DNA, right? Maybe you want to find out your family tree. Maybe you want to find out like who are your relatives and stuff. Guys, look at this interesting thing. First of all, it pulled up like over 200, almost like 300 fourth and fifth and sixth cousins, guys, for me. Like, I'd never even heard of these people. And I look at some of these people and I'm like, okay, this guy seems like he's from Iraq. This lady looks Chinese. And we got some people over there from England, and all over the place. So everybody looks like, some of them, they look similar like Russians or Ukrainian, like Europeans and stuff. And one lady actually contacted me, and she said that, that DNA brought us together. And she said that, like, she's interested, like, in my family tree and stuff like that. And she said, I think we're related on my mother's side. So it was showing, like, she's, like, my, I don't know, like, fourth cousin or something that I don't know about. But she's, like, my mom's age. So don't get any ideas. But the cool thing about it is, all of these people that's their DNA, all of a sudden, they find out, like, so much about their lives. So, like, Ancestry.com, they used to be, like, pretty interesting place as far as, like, find out, like, your like, ancestry stuff. That's why it's, like, Ancestry.com. So I haven't even done that portion. The most interesting portion for me was, like, the DNA test. And one thing that I kind of, like, didn't know that existed is creating a family tree. That's actually free to create a family tree. But if you want to check out other family trees, they do have like a 15-day free trial thing, and then they charge you like a monthly subscription, and there's different levels that you could do and stuff like that. And I do want to let you guys know, there's always discounts with Ancestry.com. Typically it's like $100 for the DNA test kit. I got a sale which was like $59. But guys, I'm going to actually leave you a link in the description below that will allow you to save 15% of the total purchase price, whatever the price may be. But try catching a holiday where it's like 59 bucks, and if you could save like 15% of that, then great. But I'm going to leave a link at the bottom. And now let me show you my maps, kind of like talk a little bit about that and show you like my wife's map and stuff like that. We're gonna try to keep this under 10 minutes if possible, but I think it's quite interesting. If somebody hasn't done it before, then it's interesting. But here's the thing, guys. I already met a lot of people, like just staying in grocery line. We just started talking about Ancestry, like, oh, I got mine tested just recently 2 weeks ago, and I had like so many family members of mine have tested their DNA. So I'm kind of thinking, is this trendy now? Like, is everybody tested their DNA? Which is kind of interesting, I guess. But let me know in the comments below if you tested your DNA, if you know like something interesting about yours. Maybe you thought you were like from one heritage, but you turned out to be in another, because I certainly was surprised. And here's like some just little facts. Let's say some of you in your family done a DNA test and they're like, oh, we're from like, let's say like 100% European, okay? Well, that's not really sometimes true for you. Like for instance, my sister, she got her DNA tested, my fifth sister, we have like 6 kids in our family. She tested hers and it showed 100% Lithuanian, and of course, you know, Poland, like Czech Republic, kind of like similar to me. But for me, it only gave 96%. For her, it gave like 100%. Now, my mom tested hers, and she was like 99% Eastern European. The 1% was Finland, which was like 1% Russian. And my older sister tested hers with a different provider, and she's got a lot of results like I did. Which she was kind of excited about. She wanted to be mixed, you know. I was like, I knew I was mixed, and you know, that's the bottom line. I don't know anybody else, but the interesting about it, like, how do we all have different bloodlines? And I even called my dad up, and I was like telling him like mine. He's like, how though? Like, how is yours like related to that and this and that, you know? But that's how it is. Like sometimes you inherit your genes from like your past family members. You ever had like your family members tell you sometimes, they're like, oh, you look like your great grandfather, or you look like your grandma, if you like, you know, whatever, or somebody like an aunt that we used to know. And that's because those DNA, like, they transfer. Sometimes you look like them, you know. But anyways, here's all the tests, guys. So anyways, guys, here's my results right here from Ancestry.com. As you could see, 96% Eastern European. This is pretty much everywhere where I'm kind of from. So pretty much Lithuania, Poland, and Czech Republic, and everything else like Estonia and stuff like that. I'm also from these 6 regions over here, which I will actually talk a little bit about. And you could see that Eastern European, 96%, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. These are the 2 regions that's part of the Eastern European. And also I'm 1% Finland, basically Northern Russia. I'm also 1% Caucasus, Melanesia, East Asia, and Asia Central. As you could see, guys, I'm pretty mixed, and when it says like 1% with a little arrow thing, it's actually 1% to 4%. I could be like part of those regions, which actually does not really surprise me. I knew I was kind of mixed, guys, because my grandparents and my parents and everybody is from everywhere else. Although all of these results are interesting, I think Melanesia is like the most interesting one. I did not even hear of this kind of name before. It turns out these are like some islands that's a little bit east of Australia. So it also borderlines Australia. So kind of shows that I am a little bit Australian as well. And also some kind of tribal type of Indians that live on those islands. Some of them, they're like darker in color, which is kind of interesting. I actually have that in my blood.